The divine warning by the prophet for the nations, the citizens of all free national governments, according to their free national constitution, all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that allude to slavery. The prophet was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and to go back to that state of mind of their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive the divine right as citizens according to their free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish Divine National Movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights, unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under a granted privilege, which has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It's free national standards and principles that make a man in a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional law of the government. I'm depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own national divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, Arabians are first to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled.
Disconnect it next time. You just like that. I just always use that spot.
Peace. Am I back?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
That's crazy.
Peace and love, Nuna.
Peace and love for Nuna.
Oh yeah.
I'm back though, right? It's back. It's a lot better.
Her voice is all chopped up.
Oh yeah.
Mine?
Yeah, so you hit the record or no screen share. It started to very much lag.
Oh wow. So everything good now?
We're gonna see. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh, it's gravy. Yes, sir.
Okay. The word Negro alludes in Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word color alludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon the earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by the said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in union, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power with a constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced in 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by my citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God Allah of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And now the prophet do hereby believe that this administration of the government being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way. And without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. And they will not refrain from their sinful ways of action. And their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these misuses. But I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing things that bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives a life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into the marvelous light. From the Prophet, Islam. So just to update it was some people that came in. Oh, I think this is Hanuna. So we found a spot in Lakewood, the 26th. It's still a Saturday. It's the week after the 19th, 12 to 4. It's going to be inside. It's a cafe. So that's the update on that. So, a couple things I had queued up for today. And as always, while we're doing this, is to be competent of just on your own culture. We know this is the dojo. I wanted to first go into this book most might be familiar with, White Slavery and Barbary States. This is the reference. This is a reference of a book, White Slavery and the Barbary States. So the lens of today is talking about Barbary. What is Barbary? Just being competent on what that is. All right. Barbary and artery. Somebody got something? You got something, Brian?
A rhetorical question. Well, is it a rhetorical question or just just for everybody to just say?
I said it rhetorically, but I do want to hear what you have to say if you got something to say about it.
Well, when I was a kid, I remember when they first introduced like Africa, and they talked about like the beginning of the spread of like humans. They said more down towards south, there was something called the Berberi tribes or the Berber. And they moved into North Africa and all the different areas. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's what my prior knowledge on Berber was.
Okay. So you got some background on Berber and Barbary being interchangeable. That's good
Yeah.
stuff. We cooking. We definitely cooking it. So I guess let's just look at it. This is, I guess, if you look up Barbary, let's see what it says before we go into the book. So I put Barbary states just to give us a little more background. The Barbary Wars, a series of two wars fought. Now we got one side and another side. Let's talk about one side will be the Allies, the United States, Sweden, Kingdom of Sicily. Who are they fighting against? The Barbary states. What are some of the Barbary states? Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, Morocco as a whole. Now this is Wikipedia, so remember that North Africa thing, that little spell they try to do to make it seem like we're just talking about the Middle East. But of course, if we're talking about the Kingdom of Sicily and all that, we're talking about 1800s. All right, so Barbary states is just another way of saying Moorish states. What is a state? Everybody in here should know what a state is. A group of people with the same nationality that form organizational structure, right? And create a body politic, also known as a state, right? Rural society. Uh, so you have states that form kingdoms, kingdoms that form empires. An example of these Barbary states, we just read Tunis, Algiers, and Tripoli, but other states would be got what they refer to as the Olmecs or the Fushang dynasty had states. Um, but they call our people that call them are Mayans or the different tribes. I don't know why I see what they commercially call Cherokee, Seneca, um, Inca, all of these things that we're taught that are called tribes are really states in actuality. But they're states, and states come together and form confederations. Confederations come together and form elections of sultans and emperors. So I'm just saying that so we can see the hierarchy of our culture, our ancient political structure, and the organization. Once again, in order to even have an empire, we got to be unity. People on the same page and coming together. All right, so that's Barbary. Just wanted to give a little background. So now we know we're reading this book here, White Slavery. And of course, it's connotative, but when we say white slavery, we're talking about blonde hair, blue eyed stock of people at this time referred to as Slavs. We're talking about the Slavs and their position and how they were used in the Barbary states, in the old world, in the Moorish Empire. We're cross-referencing another book that talks about that from a different lens. All right, so let's read a little bit. Let's read a little bit here. So I'm gonna start from here. When the countries of Europe are appearing in their new nationalities. So before I continue, the blonde hair, blue eyed stock of people are not indigenous to anywhere on the planet. They're a product of a creation based on mutation, right? So they were under the jurisdiction of whatever Moorish emperor or emperor that was ruling. Queen Europa, European. So this book is letting you know that appearing in their new nationalities, right? So they're under the jurisdiction of the British Moors. They consider themselves British. They're British subjects. Their nationality is British. All of them are Slavs, but now we're distinguishing what jurisdiction the Slav is part of or belong to. the British under the British Moors, for example. So I wanted to kind of shed a little more light on that. So now they have nationalities, I'm gonna say quasi nationalities. That makes sense. Does that make sense?
Quasi?
Quasi,
Quasi.
like fake,
Like pseudo.
pseudo,
Pseudo.
yeah,
So you said pseudo national?
pseudo nationalities, right? Blonde hair, blue eyed people are now calling themselves German, British, English, French, but they're not the original British, English, French, right? They're under the jurisdiction of the noble families of Moors in Europe.
So then I have a question. How do they, if they're slaves or slaves in that state, then move to an organizational structure where they're able to take on like their free national names as well? Or not free, they don't really take them on, they kind of steal them. How do they get into an organizational structure where they can steal them if they're still slaves? Or is that the reason they're fighting the war?
Yeah, they're kind of both. One is when our people start basically having intercourse with their harem, the female Slavs, which are called harem. Now we start having mixed babies that now, because remember it's bloodline. So they still more, they just mixed. Or they say I forgot the term, I can't think of the term, but basically like you're a mixed Moor. So now it's all about your allegiance. Some of the babies was like, you know what? I'm going to partake in rebelling against the Moors because they had our moms at harem. And when we grow up, we're going to make sure we, do the best we can to make this situation fall. Others
The
was like
mulattoes,
mulattoes.
That's
yeah,
what I
like
was thinking. Is a mulatto?
Yeah.
mixed, like Europeans and Moors, Moors migrating or immigrating with the Europeans, the mulattoes, or say
Yeah.
light skinned Moors, the ones that kind of went against, I guess, their Moorish fathers, kind of left them as redhead stepchildren almost,
Yeah.
Papa was a Rolling Stone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of that, because people always ask, how do we fall? Like it was a lot of different factors, different hostility factors, and it wasn't just one. So we just want to know how things went down, so we just want to be ambassador for the public. We just want to know how things went down.
Right. Well, I have another question, a follow-up there. I was reading, and it seems like it's been an ongoing struggle, not like recently, but it's been going on for a while, where like we dominate the seas and they make them pay taxes and enslave them, and then they do it back to us. And it, like, one of the oldest accounts I seen was in Ireland, and they have it in their Eddas or one of their like religious texts, and they talk about dark skinned people as like devils and demons who patrol the seas and tax them.
Right. And that's their
So how old is this struggle? Is my question. Like,
oh, like the last couple of weeks we've been talking about the Punic Wars and stuff like that. It go back to like BC, first century, second century. Because remember the original struggle was with our people, the ones that kept the ancient culture, and our people that prescribed to being ultimately Roman.
like, yeah.
The only thing that happened later is the Slavs end up being torpedoes for our people that were identifying as Roman. They would send them to try to, make pieces of our empire under a Roman jurisdiction. So they'll send their foot soldiers. If they were successful in that area, then they would remix the whole political structure. Okay, bam, go to church, shut down the temple. It's not a mosque, it's a church. This is Roman. Anybody practicing Islam, they can't do it. If they get caught doing it, they're gonna get, slaughtered, exiled, boom. You know what I mean? Everybody, all the riches that you got from war, now that we control that land, 10% gotta go back to the Roman emperor or later the Pope. And that's where you get the whole tithing. So that's where tithing comes from. The
Yeah.
colony, you know what I'm saying? Colonists coming over here. If they happen to win a victory in a small area, boom, convert that area, boom. That's like with Constantinople, Istanbul. When the Moors or the Ottomans had control of that area, it's called Istanbul. But the
Yeah.
Romans happened to win the victory and control it. Now it's called Constantinople. But the area is still the area that just moved is under it's being colonized. You
So
know
what
what
they
I'm saying?
talked about when that they talk about the Byzantine split when they're talking about how the empire kind of split, or the Roman, you know how they mythologize I don't know, the Roman Empire concept, but they had like a schism, and like you just said, Istanbul became, like, what is it, the capital, right? And
Then
Constantinople
yeah,
became the
for the
capital of
Roman.
the other one.
Yeah. Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to add on to that also. It was the law. You got to study the laws of retribution as well.
Okay, let me
So
get that.
yeah. So it's retribution. So right now, the pendulum is swinging back towards our favor. Look at us now, who are reclaiming our bloodline, right? But also you have to look at them forcefully taxing you. The same tax that we forced them back in those days is the same tax they forcing us. Taxation with no representation. So that retribution is that the laws of retribution is now, the pendulum is swinging back into our favor now. See what
Mm,
goes up. You got to remember, there's polarity in the universe. There's an
yeah.
even scale. So what goes up, most goes down. There's night, there's day, there's life, there's death, obviously. So there's polarity. So the pendulum has been on one side for so long, but now it's time to tilt back to the other side.
Mm.
And you can see this happening right now, right? With us just now congregating in this fashion. Right now, it's Moors. We wasn't doing this 10 years ago. We wasn't talking like this 10 years ago, just us. But look,
Right.
more of us are realizing our bloodline. So, it's coming back into our order very shortly, sooner than later.
Mm.
Yep.
Right, right. I
Any
was,
other thoughts? Oh, you go ahead, man.
yeah, I was going to say, because it sounded like when I heard the brother Brian speaking earlier, and your response to it. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it seems like basically it was our people, and then within our people, we had people that were not working for the overall good and making allies to overthrow what our people have established. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. It was our people. And let's take it back to the Bible.
Because
With Yahshua. With Yahshua, right? Because the famous line of render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and not being Roman. When people first hear this line, they thinking like, oh, blind or blue-eyed people. But like I say, this is a form of infighting. The Romans were just us. Um, so it's a creed,
and,
you know, clash.
and that
Are you breaking
I'm
up?
sorry. I- You was yeah, you was kind of skipping, so I didn't know if I was cutting you off or what.
Am I breaking up, or was it
Hello?
how everybody in the chat? Am I clear?
Yeah, are we both clear?
I
Yeah.
can hear you right now. Yeah.
Yes, I heard you clear.
Oh, okay. So, and that's kind of dead on, because like what you read before all of our sessions, he says in there it is because there's a point in there where he said it is because the sins of my people. I remember, it's in there. So it's like we have to really be cautious on having that spirit and that energy of loving our people, loving the earth, and trying to be in unity. You know what I mean? Because once other people start getting greedy and stuff like that, then it's like, you know, then they're willing to, you know, destroy other people's families as long as they get this or that, you know. So
Yeah, because you know,
yeah, I
power.
was just mhm.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that in the laws of retribution is also karmatic debt. Our karmatic debt has been paid up already. It's been paid. You know, all the bloodshed, the tears, the sweat, the mistreatments, you know. So now what they fear most is us going back on top of them. And that's a fear. That is a definite fear of them, you know, for them on us. But yeah, man, that balance is swinging back towards us now.
I mean, yeah.
I have a question too, just a follow up. Because the more I become, you know, like he said, it's a journey towards being more competent. I recognize that like law is everything, like from like divine law all the way to like the laws of the jungle. Like everything has like a principle and an order to it. So even when we are in charge, do we? Is it our like? Is it the right way to get them back, or is it what are we supposed to do when we do get into the position where we can be who we're supposed to be? You know, what are we? What is the new thing that we do?
See,
Because I'm pretty sure it's not to go back and you know do it again,
no,
or is it? I don't know.
we
when
came
it,
to learn to love instead of hate, basically. You know, so
Right.
that's the some which just are kind of answer what you're saying. Just read your literature. You know, your Circle 7 and your 1-on-ones daily. You know, you'll start to decode mentally and kind of answer all you're saying. So the overall lesson is learn to love instead of hate. Like the reason we're going through what we're going through right now because we chose to hate instead of love. Like sending the Europeans to be torpedoes. That's not love. That doesn't create peace. It doesn't create justice. It doesn't create freedom. So overall, we just learning to love instead of hate, and that's why we're here in this class and have Noble Dry Leaves literature. But yeah, that's how we stop it. Is just learn to love instead of hate in these times. So all the you know brick walls or you know emotional imbalances we have, we revert back to the literature. You know, and
I
just
like that.
you know what I mean, and just simplify it. You know. But I yield. Nothing is all and be all, but to my 2 cents, you know, just learn to love instead of hate. That's what we didn't do. So
No,
yeah,
I appreciate it. No, definitely appreciate it.
Hey,
That's
hey,
what.
can I add on a sec to that?
you got it, you got it.
Yeah, I would just add on that, you know, once we get to that place where, you know, where we're saying that, you know, we're searching to get back to, you'll notice that basically, quote, our people and good people, we have, you know, we all try to connect with the Most High. A lot of us believe and love the Most High. So a lot of us right now, we have confusions on how we go about it and things like that. But there's going to be a day and there's going to be a time coming where we are all going to 100% know what is pleasing to the creator and what is not. And then in that time frame, you know, that's where individuals, again, they're going to have the option of free will, because when we're being good to each other, when we're caring for the poor, when we're looking out for our brothers and our sisters and our elders and our things like that, that's our higher self. That's in tune with the Most High. So that's always the goal, you know. But you know, again, some people will have, you know, a different goal. But that's what I would say that most of our people will tell you. So
Yeah.
I yield.
I'd like to add something.
You got something? Oh, go ahead.
look at that, bro.
So, I like to add to that when everyone's on that vibration or frequency, then that's where we can get into the creative and manifest, and as a whole, we get more people, we can unite more people that way. So learning to love instead of hate then we could all thrive together on the same mission. That's how you start to unite and build empires. I've noticed at the temple, that's how they support the community. They help them be at peace. They help them learn a lot of different skills so they could thrive as a person. And then that's how they're able to build these huge temples. That's how they're able to travel around the world and do that. So I feel like helping people get out of like that survival mode and into love mode to create great things. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's like a compound.
Facts,
That
facts.
It
struck
gets
a
big.
nerve. It's like, dang,
Yeah.
it's like taking our people out of survival mode mentally.
mhm.
Kind of remind me of what Nip and before. He's like, it's not just dropping money off in the hood and leaving. You know, you got to teach the principles of how to like use it. You know, Noble Drew Ali gave us those principles, not just like, hey, here's the Bible of Jesus, I'm out. You know what I mean? It's like, no, really giving us those tools and the science and knowing to how to be loved. But just to add to that, taking our people, the Noble Drew Ali's lessons takes our people and us out of the starvation mode of mentally thinking. But, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, because now it's economics, now it's businesses,
Support.
it's the support,
Mhm.
and it compounds as the months and years go on. It's growing. People showing interest. I mean, society getting bigger and bigger, being part and parcel of the body politic. You know what I mean? So yeah. Um. So I wanted to another aspect of why I'm bringing this book up is to show how authors know how when we say Barbary states and how I showed you when you look up Barbary, they're going to allude to Northwest Africa. Once again, I've showed this map multiple times. Just know any reference of Northwest Africa, when they talk about Carthaginians, Phoenicians, the Barbary states, and associating the Barbary states with Northwest Africa in ancient time, BC time, they're talking about the Punic Wars and the Phoenicians and all that. They're talking about the Americas. All right. And once we comprehend that, the better we are. Why am I reiterating that? Because in this book, they're talking about that. Not only are they talking about wherever the Moors were at and created body politics, it was oranges, olives, figs. That's what we was into. I want to throw that in there. That we was into that, know herbs and fruit and know how to grow them. This author's also saying that the Barbary states is connected with the Slav states of our union. What are the Slav states? Who's he referring to? He's talking about the Atlantic Ocean and the Rio Grande. He's talking about the 13 colonies, the Pilgrims, right? The Slav states. So if these were Slavs, right? They were under the jurisdiction of the Brutus Moors. They were paying taxes over there. They threw a fit with the Boston Tea Party, and they were throwing a fit against the Brutus Moors, right? These Slavs over here, right? They didn't want the oppression, and they felt they were being done cruel by the British Moors. So that's why they came to the Muslim Moors in the Americas that had the Sultan government structure. They wanted to enter into a treaty with the Moors over here and get away from those, Moors over there at this time. I'm saying it like that, just for emphasizing, just so you can kind of see timelines and stuff like that. So the Slav states of our union. So just for visual purposes, when we say the Slav States Union, we're just saying the 13. We're just saying the 13 colonies. Before they were called the United States or just 13 colonies, this was their flag when they formed their initial union. When you see this flag at this time, British, you see the British insignia all in it before it got ultimately changed to the one with the 13 stars when they formed their union under the Articles of Confederation, then entered into a treaty with the Moorish Empire, Treaty of Peace and Friendship. And now you got the Constitution for the United States, of the United States of America, which is a rule book on how to conduct themselves while they're in the foreign lands of America. So just a little background.
If you think about it, that's very clever how they became a nation. That's very clever.
Very
That's
clever.
very clever. Very clever. Slick.
Right. But we just need to know, once again, history and law, context. So now let's go back to, remember, cross-referencing. Let's go back to Slavs, back to the book, basically. white slaves in Barbary states. So now we're dealing with Barbary states in the Americas. All right. And they give a reference of these Slav states. Because remember, if they're Slav states, that means there's somebody ruling over them. We already know, most of us already know, the Sultan, Sidi Muhammad III, Sultan Moulay, his successor. These were all the sultans that signed the treaties with these Slavs. The Slavs that elected ambassadors, George Washington, Thomas Barclay, right? Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, the people we were taught as founding fathers. The Slavs amongst themselves appointed people to do treaty negotiations with our elected officials, Sultan in the cabinet under the Sultan. Just a little background. So let's look at the jurisdiction of these Slav states. Look at the reference in this book, Atlantic Ocean to the Rio Grande, which cannot be far from the space comprehended by what? What does it say? By what may be called the Barbary States of America. So not only did it reference the Barbary states being Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, Grenada, but the Slav states that end up being the 13 colonies that end up being the United States was under the jurisdiction of the Barbary states in America. What I'm highlighting is the Rio Grande. When you cross-reference this Rio Grande reference to set the borders, right? What are they setting the borders for? 36 degrees, north latitude. Now you're talking about the Missouri Compromise. All that jurisdiction was under the Barbary states. So why did I bring up the Rio Grande? Let's cross-reference this with a congressional globe. And we've talked about this multiple times, but we're talking about it from a different lens. House Representative, January 3rd, 1845, dealing with the annexation of Texas. The stupendous deserts between the Nueces and the Bravo River are natural boundaries between the Anglo-Saxon and the Mauritanian races. The end of the Valley of the West, there Mexico begins. Hence, beyond the Bravo, begin the Moorish people and their Indian associates to whom Mexico properly belongs. So when you start looking up the Bravo and the Rio, you're going to start seeing that's the jurisdiction that we're talking about right here. It was now called Texas, Missouri. That's all the jurisdiction of the Moors people. All right, so now let's go back. Let's go back to the book. All right. Now, whenever referencing the Missouri Compromise, most of the people heard of that in school. You know, they learned that in history. But the lens that it's talking about is from, you know, the slaves and the North and the South, and how it had to be a compromise with the North and the South because they had different ideologies, and that's how the Civil War started. And most people know about Lincoln getting assassinated during this time, and it's a shift in politics, and all of a sudden it's democracy now after this stuff that's going on. We're not, you know, we can talk about this in a different lens. I'm just kind of just bouncing around, but we can definitely go into different scopes. Now, but since I see the Louisiana Purchase once again, what was the background of the Louisiana Purchase? Before I go into that, let me greet everybody that just chimed in. Brother Hassan, peace and love. G93,
Peace and
peace
love.
and love. So since I see the Louisiana Purchase, let's go into that a little bit. Why was that a purchase?
Hey, Mafi.
Go ahead. Everybody, you got something?
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt on you, but yeah, that Louisiana Purchase that you're getting into is very important because our way of life, our property, and our person is protected under that treaty. These treaties are still active and ongoing to this very day. They're still law. You can still enforce these treaties and that Louisiana Purchase. But yeah, our person, our way of life, and our property is protected. So if you're declared Moor, and someone's trying to steal, take property away from you, you can just invoke the Louisiana Purchase. It's in there.
That's OP.
It's in there. But anyway, I yield.
No, appreciate you. Now, the lens I'm speaking of, the Louisiana Purchase, is who purchased it. You're talking about Napoleon and the crew, right? France. They're gonna promote it as France, even though he was Castilian or something like that. He wasn't even French, but that's a whole other story. Napoleon and the crew was going to war with our Moorish brothers in Haiti, right? It was the Haitian Revolution was popping off. They needed money for ammunition, right? That's what that was about. So they sold the land, right? Remember King Louis and the crew. That's how you get Louisiana, right? The original French colony before Napoleon and them. That's how. But so the successor, Napoleon, after King Louis, sold that jurisdiction because they needed money to purchase ammunition to go to war with our people in Haiti. Saint Laurent and the crew, right? Our revolutionaries in Haiti, and the Haitians won. Actually, they fought the crew off. Actually, they couldn't do nothing with our people over there at that time. So I'm gonna just put that out there. A little background. So let's go back. I'm trying to see that I can cover everything. Cover in here. I think that was what I wanted to show is how this book is showing that the Barbary states is in the Americas as well as what they call Tangier, Tunis over there. So now that I'm talking about that, 'cause I know I always bring up the Middle East and how that's a new concept, I wanted to show y'all something that y'all can see. Before I do that, I gotta do one more thing. I haven't went into this book fully, but it's a book called Alhambra. And in this book, it's a table of contents. That's it? No, it's not it. Oh, there we go, Alhambra. So when you look through this table of contents, it gives you an idea of where our mind frame is at. And right here, it talks about Granada and the Alhambra, Cordova and Seville. Now, the reason I'm highlighting that, is because when we're dealing with South America, and before anything was called Colombia, Venezuela, Argentina, all this type of stuff is called now. And I went over this before, but I want to go into a little different lens. It was called New Granada. South America was called New Granada. So once again, like I said a couple of weeks ago, why were Granada over there, the Barbary states over there, why would it be called the same thing in South America? I'm saying that to invoke thought, because the empire was on both sides. That's why I'm saying it like that.
Why do they credit Amerigo Vespucci for trying to for claiming to discover the Americas? If you could see already in treaties itself that Americas was already, discovered.
That's why we go over things like this, so we can we don't have to say it like that. We can show the evidence, and it will debunk all that Vespucci stuff.
Right.
By going through stuff like this. I'm gonna go to images. That's what I'm gonna go to. So we just using reasoning, right? If Granada, Cordoba, Tripoli, all these were prior to things being called Spain, Moorish states. Why is these names the same names over here in South America? At this time, this was all New Granada, South America, or the northern tip of it, right? So look, New Granada was now called Venezuela and all that, was now called Colombia and all that. New Granada. Ecuador, that's New Granada in the 1500s, 1600s. All right. So the reason it was called this is because once our people start getting expelled, the whole commercial calendar year of 1492, right? That part of Granada, Cordoba, Al-Andalus fell. The Red House fell. The Alhambra fell. They got conquered by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, right? 1492. That's the commercial market year, right? Immediately after that, what happens? Christopher Columbus and the crew sail over here to try to attempt to get some more of the empire to fall. What else happened? The Moors that end up staying in that area that were forced to turn Moriscos and not practice our ancient creed and forced to be looking like Christians in the public, practicing Islam in the privacy of their own home. Some of them got expelled where? To South America in the 1500s, 1510. And you're going to start seeing why is that? Because that's where their folks was at. That we had an option. Initially, it was an option like get expelled, or you want to stay and fight, or we're going to slaughter you, or you can stay and just turn Christian. These were the options we had initially in the 1490s, 1500s. And then after a while, it got worse and worse. But the reason they got expelled to South America because they knew that was the other side of the empire. And once again, when you look at a book that we talked about before, by Ivan Van Sertima, they came before Columbus. They're going to talk about Abu Bakari, one of the sultans after Mansa Musa. No, he was a sultan before Mansa Musa in the Mali Empire. He was one of the sultans before. He came to the Americas during the time of the creation of the Aztecs, right? So it was just a blend. He just came and blended in with his cousins. The empire, we was on both sides. So we just need to know this information and not get caught in the schism. Because the reason it's a schism is because of timelines, locations, and geographical landmasses, how they are today. And you getting confused how was today these maps are reconstructed maps. So it's throwing you off. So we here in Northwest Africa, we think of Middle East. Why we think of Middle East? That's how we've been trained. These jurisdictions weren't even created yet. Right? And I had some queued up dealing with that. Yeah. So we're talking about that. Let's look at the term Middle East. So look, the term Middle East created after World War I. The region we recognize as the Middle East today, a roughly defined but distinct swath of territory stretching from Turkey to Egypt to Iran, only became into being when the Ottoman Empire fell. And we know the Ottoman Empire is just saying the Moorish Empire. We just talked about Istanbul and how the Moors was going to war with Constantine and the crew, the Roman Moors. What was Yahshua saying? Render unto Caesar with a Caesar, man, get the Roman ways. So the Moors are just saying what Yahshua was saying. Anybody that's down with Jesus should be down with the Moors. Exactly. The Natchez. Oh yeah, I see everything you said in there. Yeah. You on fire in the chat, Sister Indigo. So once the Sultanate, the Caliphate's government structure, the Sultan structure, empire structure fell. So remember, that's what World War I and World War II was about. Remixing all those Moorish empire structure style states and breaking them up. Now there's all these subdivisions. Now all of a sudden it's Egypt, Iran, Jordan, Israel, Turkey. All these names are names of ancient biblical towns and cities and stuff like that. But it's in the jurisdiction of a new area. But they calling it something ancient. That's what's throwing off the people. So we need to know, when did all this stuff go down? Once they start shutting our people down over there and remixing it and becoming different politics. Before it was called the Middle East, it was under the jurisdiction of a sultan, what they call the Ottoman Empire. And it's really So the Moors under the house of Osman. Osman was a Moor, had a family, the House of Osman. Commercially, they're gonna say Ottoman. It's really the Osman. As a matter of fact, it's a documentary called The Osman that you can talk about you can go get an audio visual on what was going down. And when we're talking about, and back to the one-on-ones, why Noble Joe Ali referenced Sultan Muhammad, because he was the head of what they call the Ottoman Empire, and was responsible for shutting down the devil. At this time, Constantine and the crew, the Romans and the crew. All right, so I just wanted to say that. Let's see. So let's continue. Any thoughts on that for our transition?
Met this one brother, he was like, man, let me show you something.
Okay. So let's transition to the timeline. So here's a timeline that we kind of left off on. And I find it fitting that we're talking about Yahshua right now. So let's go from 450 AD and we'll work our way down so we can just have a clear cut view of just some things. So let's look at the genealogy of Jesus or Yahshua. We got Abraham, Boaz, Ruth, and Ruth was the Moabitess. We got Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, which came by Joseph and Mary. So that's just a little bloodline. Now we got 450 AD. The Old Testament is translated out of Aramaic. So now we already know the remix happening 100 years before with Constantine, the Nicene Council. They remixed the Bible in general. Now we go on, we see, it's translated out the original tongue. 500 AD, first plans for the Vatican. So we went from a Roman emperor structure. We went from Roman emperors. Now we're going to popes. It's going to be the Roman political structure. They're going to have a pope now, right? Catholicism is going to be heavy, ingrained in their subjects or people they colonize. That's their plan. Now, let's move forward to 505. We have the Persian-Roman War. So they're loosely don't get lost like these different people. They're referring to our people as Persian, Carthaginian, Moorish, all the same. So the Persian-Roman War, a time period of peace was reached, and the agreement stated that the Rome would pay 30,000 in gold to the Persians. So at this time, we had the Romans in check, and they was like, you know what? We're gonna act right. We're gonna pay y'all 30,000 to the Moors. Was keeping the original creed, loosely referred to as Persians. 1628, we got the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, or the unification of Islam. So now we're getting to the space where the most commercial time, all the Moors from 711 to 1492, cleaned up Europe, taught the Albions how to bathe, government structure, high science, liberal arts, all the Moorish architecture that we know, Taj Mahal style buildings in that area, Oxford, universities, etc. is established. The Age of Enlightenment taking place during this time. So Moors led by Tariq ibn Yazid entered into Al-Andalus, now called Spain, by way of the Strait of Gibraltar. It was named after him, the Jabal Tariq, or the Mountain of Tariq, and very easily defeated the Christian Crusaders under the authority of Roderick, king of the Visigoths. It is also known as the Umayyad conquest of Hispania. All right, so even over there, they were trying to tag our people Hispanic. That was kind of the loose name for certain lands when they took it over, just like Constantinople, Hispania. All right. So Battle of Tours, Poitiers, France, the Moorish seizure of Europe was countered by Christian king Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer, and the Moors were rerouted back into Spain. So Charles the Hammer, Christian Moor, infighting, 732 AD. No blonde hair, blue eyed people in political power. Strictly Slav. All this is infighting. This is a visual of what's going on from 711 to 732 during the Moorish conquest of what we call Al-Andalus or Spain. So we got the Visigoths invading. There's a lot going on. I just let y'all marinate in the visual for a little bit before I scroll. Give me a time to drink some water. And keep in mind, at this time, it's called the Frankish kingdom. The Frankish held off by Moors in the 700s, right? So the Franks, what they call France? Frankenstein. You see what you showing us? And look, these are the nation states I was talking about. These body politics: Toledo, Cordoba, Seville, Tangier, Gibraltar. That's what we're talking about. The Rock of Gibraltar was created in to pay homage to General Tariq right here in this area. All right, so and Grenada as well as this area too. So all this area was named the same thing in South America in the 1500s. That was the demonstration I was talking about earlier. I was going to connect the dots since we had the visual. All right, so I'll continue reading. So Alfonso I, Spanish king of Austria, Spain, Moor, Christian Moor. So from 739 to 757, he launched a conquest against the Moorish Empire. His own brothers that keeping the original creed. The reason I'm saying it like that for emphasis, so we can sink in that this is just infighting. So bear with me. All right. So all this is going on in Spain, 1739. Alfonso III, or Alfonso the Great, King of Austria, Spain, 866 through 909, continued the wars against the Moors, as Alfonso I and II before him, as did Alfonso IV, 5th, and 6th. So this was a generational war. So it was a line of Alfonsos, a line of Christian Moors with hatred. Now, keep in mind, you know what the successors, they're gonna be like, man, we've been in this fight. We've been fighting this all bloodline. We've been fighting against, these Moors, these Carthaginians, right? So that's what built the animosity, because somebody talked about how did the animosity, and I think somebody alluded to that. That's how things start. Just think about like gang members today. Gangs that started in the 70s, and they've been going back and war to war, nephews and kids and people's families been getting shot. So somebody uncle then got killed from the other side. And everybody in your family, like, yeah, these enemies over here, they killed our family member. That's the same type of tip. It's like, it's the same thing. It's gangbanging. Old world, new world, mind frame. Original creed, Roman. This is gangbanging. Our people was gangbanging, going to war with each other. It was a step up back then because we had territories and states. It was kingdoms and organization. Right now, it got watered down to a street that you don't even own. You just tag on the wall and stuff. That's what it got watered down to. But in principle, we still was infighting. Nothing new under the sun, right? Empress Indigo, peace and love.
Peace now.
So now we're transitioning. Let's transition to 1200s. So the European Renaissance, or the rebirth out of the Dark Ages, is accredited to the Moors in Spain. Over 700 years of teaching and ruling. The rebirth took place around the 13th century, reached its peak around the 16th century, and spread to the rest of Europe in the 17th century. The Almoravid Moors took control over Spain. The Almoravids were originally called the Morabites, meaning champions of the faith. They would often combat injustices such as forced taxation. Around 1031, 1062, the Morabites or Almoravid Moors drove back the Christian powers. Yusuf I entered into Europe with a mixed army of men from Senegalese, Arabian, and Moorish brigades in efforts to defeat Alfonso VI, Christian Moor. With the mixed army, of 70,000 from kingdoms of Almirez, Badajoz, here go Granada, and Seville. In 1085, the Christian Moors capture Toledo and take, right? Same thing what we keep saying with Istanbul, now it's Constantinople. The Christian Moors would conquer one of the Moor states. They were successful in conquering one of the states, but it was a big empire. So it wasn't like it was just defeated. It was just some pockets was falling. The Christians would capture, change the politics. The temples are turned into churches. You can't practice your, you know what I mean? That whole colonizational system took place. It was a systematic how they went about it. You know. So yeah, they captured Toledo 1085. So transitioning forward to Yusuf ibn Tashfin, leader of the Moroccan Almoravid Empire, stops Alfonso VI in the Battle of Sagres. He also known as the co-founder of Marrakesh, along with Abu Abdul Hakim Abrilla. So now we got nation states Marrakesh, which is just body politics. Peace and love, Justin Bay, man, peace and love, man. I'll reiterate what we talked about in the beginning because we got updates for all the Moors out here physically in Cali as far as our event. We'll go into detail into that at the back end of the demonstration. And the name of this book is Are You Confused About Law? The book previous, we went into white slaves in the Barbary states. Okay, so transitioning into 1095, Pope Urban II orders the first crusade against the Moors. Moor with the Roman mind frame, the Moors with the Roman mind frame elected a pope. That pope ordered the first crusade. You heard about the Christian crusades, right? You're thinking it's blind hair, blue eyed people. They might have been the torpedoes, but who was sending them? Moors, melanated people that identified as being Roman. We need to know this so we can explain this to the general public. The general public don't know that unless their culture kind of come from the East, you know, but if they just primarily in the North America, they don't know the different levels of what's going on. They're just thinking about the white man oppressing me, the white man. You know, the background. And of course, whites on the nationality, so political status. But we all know that in here, you know. But we still need to teach them that too. They don't know that. All this stuff that's repetitive that we think we keep hearing is brand new for the people. Don't ever lose that. And stay sharp. Because over the years, as we keep studying certain things, you know, get repetitive, but we're doing it so we stay sharp. So Pope Urban II, Roman Moor, he sent the crusade, 1095. Moors began to follow the idol gods of Europe due to European indoctrination to the dogmatic principles. So here come the dogma. It's talking about the holy books in a dogmatic way, a parable way. It really started in the 400s, but it got further remixed as we keep moving here. Dogmatic principles of the Nicene Creed, which I just said it, right? Guys, that's Christianity. Why is it guys that's Christianity? Because Christianity is about the activation of the Christ. In more ancient books, the Christ is the pioneer, third eye, ascending to a person of morality, humility. So you can tap in and get those messages from the angels. That's what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. The messages from the 7 Elohim. You got to be at a certain level to even tap in to get those messages. Clairvoyance, illumination, divine wisdom that just hits your mind like a genius thought. That's why Noble Drew Ali said we want genius citizens. Because you're genius because you tapped in. And now you're forming a body with divine people. Now it's a divine movement. There's movement now. Because we practice in politics, plotting and planning, strategizing, trying to keep this thing going. This assisted in the divide and conquer tools to win wars against our people. Converted Moors were often used as infiltrators spies. But our people that were conquered, they don't want their wives and children to get slaughtered. They end up folding. It was like, man, we do whatever we got to do. All right, well, tell us where they got their arms, and who's keeping the books, and where they treasury and stuff at, where they gold and silver at. Tell us, or we're gonna kill you. Some of our people flipped, just like today. CIA, our people flipping. That whole thing been going on. That's why we fell. There's a lot of different reasons. A lot that went on to our demise. There's not just one thing. How the Moors fall? If the Moors was empowered, and why? Why this? It's not really about that. What can we do today to unite today? Get businesses started today. We just want to know the information so we can explain it. But let's not get caught up in, oh, we failed and we can't get back on top. The white man gonna blow it up. You see what they did to Black Wall Street? That ain't gonna work. Don't let these haters influence you. All right, so Knights Templar. No, I was at infiltrators. Infiltrators, spies, and betrayed their fellow Moors, forgetting of one of the true universal God Allah, honoring not their brother and sister, for the promise Rome had to offer, leading to the trickle decline of the Moorish Empire. Last sentences, right? Summarize our fall. Sister Indigo. Another conflict that can be, right? And we know that's internal. Mastering our lower self. Now we're talking about macro, micro, out of within, so without, right? David and Goliath. We struggling internally with our carnal self. What we talking about is our carnal self. What we talking about going to war with our people. Like the brother Benjamin Bay said, we use Albions as torpedoes. We go to war with our people. If they were successful, oh yeah, send all the spoils and 10% back to the headquarters, back to the Roman noble families. That's not love, right? So that ultimately led to our demise. One of the reasons. All right, so we got Pope Innocent II endorses the Knights Templar and promises ownership of all Moorish territories conquered by them, exempting them from tithes. See, look, Roman tax. We getting into that, right? So they was exempt. Knights Templars, they was exempt from paying taxes because that was the foot soldiers, right? Makes sense. So we got Sultan Noble Juwali said we must study ourselves. Yep, got to study ourselves. Transitioning to 1144, Pope Celestine II provides continued energy protection to the Knights Templar, as they are the primary military arm of the papacy. The papacy, when you hear papacy or papal bull, these are orders sent by the Pope to do something. In this case, the orders were sent by the Pope by his military arm, Knights Templars, Knights of Columbus, whatever and mind you, these soldiers later became Masonic lodges. Later, right now, they're just boots on the ground, going to war with the ancient creed of our people. And just a little background on this, because this is another land, but the reason how the Pope got all these Knights Templars is because he ransomed them, these Slavs, from us when we would seek their ships for not paying tribute. The Pope had institutions that would come and ransom. The reason they were doing that because they know, oh, if we come ransom them, they're gonna pledge to the Father, the Pope. They're gonna be down with the Catholicism. We just rescued you, right? So they pledged allegiance to the Pope. Like, I'm just giving you context so you can see how, there's a lot of different things going on for different political reasons that end up happening later. So let's transition to Pope Eugene III, establishes the foundation of the Knights Templar as well as their collective success in conquering and continued stolen wealth, allowing them safe passage to travel through Europe freely. Supported by this Latin phrase, which is just a papal bull stating that you've been mandated to go to war. You got permission to go to war by the Pope. Pope signed off on this. We got the Second Crusade against the Moors, 1145. Yaqub ibn Yusuf, also known as Al-Mansur, look him up, ruled Morocco from 1149 to 1189, invaded Al-Andalusia twice, and is known as one of the greatest Moorish rulers of Spain. These are just our ancestors. We didn't know our history. That's all we're doing. We didn't know. You know, we got great people. You know, it's bigger than just Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and the usual suspects. 1145, Mahdi and the Almohad Moors began to take control of the Moorish Empire. The Almovid Moors took control over Spain, trickled, and by 1174, it was replaced by the Almohad Moors. Just like any other shift in power, the Almohad Moors began to make major moves and enhancements to Moorish Spain. So all this was going on. We had good stuff going on, and we got wars and things getting took over. So I think I'll stop here with this. We'll continue next week with this aspect. I want to go on to the next part of my demonstration. I just want people to have a remember history and law go together. So we want to have a better idea of how things got to the place where they are now. Any thoughts, statements for our transition to the next part of the demonstration for today?
Is there any like what is the countries that were like outside of the fighting that still have accounts for like the changes that happened between these wars? Is there like a state or what is it called? Or region of territory that just was like outside the mix, but kind of seeing what happened when some of these changes took place? Because like you said, it's a lot of remixing and a lot of name changes that you got to cross-reference.
Yeah, most of the people from the East, like the information that we're going over, they pretty much know it's not, you know, like I said, just domestically here.
Just in North America, huh?
Yeah, our people, because there's a kind of
Yeah.
new, you know.
Hey, Mafi.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I was while you were doing your demonstration, I pulled up the term tithe, right? And it's synonymous with levy, assessment, toll, tenth, impost, tariff, tribute, duty, and tax. So whenever you per se, you're at a church per se, and they always want you to tithe. That's exactly what Mafia was mentioning when he was saying how the Romans were imposing their tax and tithing on us. Remember, those two words are synonymous with each other, tithing and taxing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I yield. I'm sorry about that.
No, that was good. That was a good addition. Before I get back into the light of Egypt, possibly the 12 powers of man, I saw something. It's another book reference, actually. Moorish Empire. And I wanted to go down the content, the table of contents, just so you can see, you know, how grand we were doing, and cross-referencing from other stuff. You see the word Moor, Berber, Arab is all synonymous. You see the Moors, they're saying a white race. And we already know why it's saying that, right? Because of the status of the Moors. And I believe it's new people on here. So I think I might have to go over that with free white person. Yeah, that's a status. But essentially it is a status. Let me see what
As a legal status, right?
Yeah, let me just double check. I think everybody in here knows that. Yeah, everybody in this chat knows. I don't gotta go into that. So, but if I do, I will. Just let me know if anybody confused on what I mean by that. Yeah. Hmm. So yeah, so now cross-referencing, looking into the law dictionary, reading the definition of free white person. Now you have this book dealing with the Moorish empires in the introduction. It's talking about how Moors are a white race. So when I'm speaking with people, I will use this and then the law definition of free white person. Okay, I found it. I might as well just read it. So we got free white person. This is from the Black's Law Dictionary, fourth edition. Everybody in here, we read this. So I'm going straight to the highlights. When we're dealing with the Celtic, we already know the Celtic was the original Moors in Europe, what they call Europe. We know the original Iberians, that's what they call Europe. That is really the Iberian Peninsula or Asia Minor. The original Iberians is the Moors. The original Albanians are the Moors. The Celtic and the Iberian are saying mix as if they're two different people within the Moors. The Moorish inhabitants of Spain, which they pretty much is reiterating because they just cover that up here. Because Celtic is what they call, the Europe. So Portugal, anybody called Phoenician, we know those Moors. Here we go with that North African thing, inhabitants of Sicily. The North African inhabitants of Sicily is referring to the original Sicilians, which we covered in the past couple of weeks, that those are Moors. What book are you referring to, Larry? Back copy of the Moorish Empire book or
Yeah, that book that you just you had just displayed on the screen there when you were saying that it had those definitions in there, as far as yeah, I'm not sure. You had a book, you had a PDF up on the screen a moment ago.
oh, that's
'Cause I'm a,
called the
I'm a
Moorish.
book bug, man. So
Yeah. Yeah, now that's called the Moorish Empire. So let me finish reading this. I'll go back to it right
Moorish
now.
Empire.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So when we show somebody this and they see this for the first time, we can cross-reference that book I'm about to show right now to show you like its status. We're not dealing with nationality when we say white or black. That's a political status because the Slavs that were pilgrims in the 13 colonies were black. Even though they were pale and blonde hair, blue eyed, they were referred to as black because that was their status, right? So the slave trade did exist. It did exist, but we need to know who the Slavs were and who the nobles were. And being a prisoner of war is not the same thing as being a Slav, right? So we just didn't know that space. So these are things when I'm dealing with the public, it kind of invokes some thought. Um, where that book at that I was talking about? Yeah. So this book right here is what you're referring to, Larry Bay. This is The Moorish Empire by Budget Meakin. And as you can see in the introduction, it's
You have
popping off.
you have a PDF copy of that book?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can email it to you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Good looking. Thank you. Islam, I'm sorry.
That's fine. So look, we got Moorish markets. We got trading. So Moors is known to be merchants. Moors is known to be entrepreneurs, right? Gardens. We living into soaps and tattooing, cosmetics. So we need to get back to our culture. The garden, G93. G93. Is that a Kelly exclusive? Is that G93?
So you talk
I
about
like
science?
I like this book.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we all we already know. Remember, this is one book. We got other books that will talk about the Moors being into science and that more in depth. But this book goes into that as well. But there's more books that go into more in depth. Also, what I want to highlight is a lot of people will be like, "Oh, Moroccan is a new concept, but the French Moors is a whole different thing." Any book that I've seen, because remember, Moor is just short for Moroccan. So, origins of Moroccan nomads, Moorish country life. There's a Moorish, Moroccan Same thing. I want to highlight that because that's a hurdle for some of our people. Um,
Islam, I had a question in regards to Moorish, like I guess the IHS into that, like meaning like I looked it up last night, but I was wondering why do we say Moorish if that means like like fake or
no, but
kind of like
ish.
Jewish, how the Jew that they're not the original Jews, but they take on the Jewish, and um
Yeah,
So
I was going to tell you Moorish is no different. Oh, sorry about that.
I was going to say like somebody from Poland will say they're Polish. So when you put ish at the end of something, you're saying of or related to. So if you're saying you're
okay.
Moorish, you're saying of or relating to the Moor. We got Moors in America. We got Moors, Cambodia, Tibet, Philippines, Caribbean islands, West Africa, Russia. Um,
Globe,
so
huh? Okay.
globe, and so Sister Indigo, you said, can you show the link to the title of the book? Which book are you referring to? Are you referring to this one right here?
I think it's the
Or-
Moorish, the one that you're showing right now.
Maybe you can
Is
blast
it
a
that
video
one?
with the flyer to the group members or something later.
Because this is going to be nice from a
Especially in
cultural
the book.
perspective to be
That,
able to.
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
book
say,
looks fire, man.
this is a good book.
That
For you,
book.
Right.
Williams? A good book.
Because you could culturally integrate, those ancient customs
Mhm.
and make your
right,
ancestors proud.
right.
Right.
But you just gotta know about them first, right?
Mhm.
Um, yes, it's a PDF for Sister Indigo. So, like I said, anybody that's interested, I'll just email this to them after the meet's over at some point. And yeah, everybody can just take their time with it. Irrigation, agriculture.
Okay.
This is, look,
Water.
auctions. The concept of having an auction. We've been doing this, what I mean? Babyhood, how to raise children. The culture, birth feast, right? Just a celebration when women. I mean, when babies come to the world, we have the celebrations. This is part of the culture. This is what we did. Methods of business, right? Back to the merchants, therapeutics, how to deal with leprosy and plagues. Remember, we cleaned up Europe. The veterinary methods, right? We healed pets. We was the first pet doctors. Okay, Islam, brother Hassan. So I wanted to go through a couple of the table of context. I felt that was very interesting.
Was this the end of it right here? Is there more in the second page?
Oh yeah, it's a lot more, a lot more. You got
Yeah, that's the playbook right there.
look, some Moorish characteristics. The master passion, master your passions. Come on, man. Self-control, endurance. Come on, man. Integrity, humor.
That's the
Stop
playbook.
playing.
That's the playbook.
Mhm.
You froze up for me. I'm not seeing.
Smiling the way I haven't smiled before.
Look. Oh, somebody said something in the chat. Okay, she found it. Look, Moorish saints, hospitality.
The priest class.
Say what holidays, graduations, colleges, books, primary school.
Yeah, varsity life, just structure how to go through getting curriculum. Look, religious orders, we always have orders. Organization, matchmaking, Remember back in the day, we would match make by Cosmos, see the grandmothers would see if it was a match made in heaven, right? That's where that term come from, right? Match made in heaven. Because y'all stars aligned. Y'all work together, the elements, y'all elements work together or clash. Only way to know that is to know thyself. So oh, that came from matchmaking. That's what I got from that.
I guess we're
We
reading.
did that.
Are we gonna go through this whole book?
You eventually, not today, but I was going
Yeah.
through just the table of contents so people can see, look, the Morocco Berbers, here got that word again. So when you're hearing Berbers, Carthage, it's all the same. No. So look, the Jewish year in Morocco. So the Moors is the Jews. It's another cross-referencing to show that, right? So we got tabernacles, the Passover, the rituals. This is all
You have history right here.
Yep, historical importance. So yeah, this book is called The Moorish Empire.
Mm.
So I wanted to go into the Light of Egypt. We probably won't have time to go into the 12 powers of man today. So we're on chapter 3. We left off on chapter 3. The Light of Egypt. Science of the soul and the stars. So we're dealing with the origin of physical life. Let me check the chat. Somebody put something in the chat. Oh, and oh, she okay. I'm gonna check all the links when I get done with the demonstration. But I believe it was something related to what we were talking about. So the origin of physical life. Mighty oaks from little acorn grow. When we speak of the genesis of life, and I found this fitting because we were talking about Genesis a couple weeks ago or last week, and how the book of genetics and Genesis is saying the same thing. The genesis of life. You come from the atoms, molecular, and it's an evolution of building. And then we talked about how now that we're in our physical form, we're in our growth state, and we involve evolution and involution. And now that we're in this involution state, our goal is to evolve and be the ascending arc, so to say. And that's where you get the concept of the phoenix, or coming out the ashes, resurrection of self, breaking through those carnal customs and fighting through it, reaching higher planes of light or higher levels of thought. But when we speak of the genesis of life, we must be understood to mean the origin of physical life, and not the genesis of life within the divine super celestial spirit of God's infinite creation. Man, his creation, from hence, man, his constitution, from whence he came, and whither his journey will carry him, is all that embodied man can hope to understand during his sojourn upon the external planes of matter. The exalted adept craves no more. In fact, he cannot obtain any absolute knowledge beyond this, because it is impossible for him to realize anything beyond himself. The perfect man, while incarnated within the astral vortices of humanity, cannot penetrate and know the details of truth belonging to the purely angelic state. Before he can do this, he must forever translate it from the astral spirit of the planet, which gave him birth, and he himself become an angel. So let's stop and marinate on this. In order for you to tap in, you got to be at a certain level. You have to become an angel. Let's back to the past couple weeks. What is angel?
An angle? How you become an angle?
Angel.
Well, it's a state of being where you're in the celestial spheres and you're more light. The matter is lighter.
Yeah, like you become knowledgeable and giving out that knowledge. Seem like that angle of light on, you know? I think that's how I understand it.
Right. And then
Mm.
you brought up yourself, brother Brian, how archangel, which is synonymous for the Elohim. You looked up the etymology of arch. It talked about that's what an arch is, angle, right? Angle. So the angles of light is what we get. And when we're ready to receive those angles of light, we can comprehend the messages that the light is communicating.
Mm.
And that's when I gave the demonstration about fiber optics. The reason I brought that up is because that's a form of communication through light. And back to the 101s of Noble Joe Ali, it says, what is an angel? The angel is a messenger of Allah. So an angel will be the prophets, all the major prophets, Yeshua, Buddha, Muhammad, people that did great work. In principle, they were used as vessels, but they were given the information because they're ready to receive it. And then they were a vessel to give it to the people that have not ascended to that level, or they're not on the mountaintop yet. To know what's really going on the earth plane, character-wise, morality, unification-wise, information-wise. Now you're an angel or a vessel. And that's why a prophet is just a messenger of the truth, messenger of the light. Once again, that's why Yeshua said, what I can do, all man can do. Right? A thought of Allah manifested in flesh. So the perfect man, his whole goal was to ascend to that angelic state. The mightiest Hierophant, when you look up Hierophant, you're going to see that's just going to say a synonym for Hierophant would be high priest, magi. The mightiest known Hierophant, Hermes Trismegistus, also known as Thoth or Tahuti, which gives rise to the principles laid down for that is the Hermetic principles. And that could be your measuring stick on which you need to comprehend how the world works. So this world has ever produced. So they're saying he's the most well-renowned Hierophant that the world has ever produced. Has only been able to speculate as to details within these exalted states. And such speculations without corroborative testimony are valueless when used as the foundation for a system of thought, as the speculations of any religious enthusiasts. The only difference between the two consists in the different planes occupied by the respective speculators. The involution is opposite of evolution, and the reactive evolution of matter are based upon absolute laws, which man may realize for himself. The one form disappears only to give place to another more perfected or more perfect, is a fact observed throughout nature. That's why back to the circle 7, as man unfolds, his God unfolds through trials and tribulation, through a fight that can't be explained in words. These are all expressions of wisdom in all her departments. And those who possess the attributes of soul sight in a sufficiently developed state can perceive the hidden potentialities latent within the outward form. So that means when you rise, now you can tap into things you can't necessarily see in physical form. You can tap into the Elohim. We're just cross-referencing the same point from different, aspects. The Quran, the light of Egypt, 12 powers of man. So we're doing it. It's cross-referencing. So we can know that we're on the right path. This is not new, the whole world knows this information of what real spirituality is about and the purpose of humans on the earth plane to have heaven on earth. This being so, we assert of our own spiritual experiences that is true. Then we know that the previous to this evolution, which we can distinguish taking place all around us, there must have been a process of involution by which these latent potentialities became involved with external matter. From nothing, nothing can be produced. It is therefore only the blind, unreasoning atheists who can credit such an illogical creed as the one which has been summarized. Quote, from nothing we came, and whatever our station, to nothing we owe an immense obligation. Whatever we do or whatever we learn in time, we shall all into nothing. So this author's disagreeing with that, and I disagree with it too. And he's saying it's more about this. To the cold-hearted supporter of this soul-annihilating system of nothingness who flaunts his superficial learned authority under the plausible name of an agnostic. So that perspective I just read was an agnostic, not a Gnostic. We have a Gnostic point of view. We reply with the fully realized consciousness of deathless progressive immortality, right? Because it's really, we don't die. The flesh dies. And then on another tip, when you look in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, when you come into the light of truth, you resurrected. So you actually die and come to life. You're amongst the living now. You're no longer amongst the dead once you come into this space.
Islam.
Islam. You got something, Justin?
So yeah, I'm just clarifying how you pronounce. You said agnostic or agnostic, or is there a difference in those, or am I just?
Yeah, agnostic will be the opposite of Gnostic. So it's Gnostic, but just put an A in front of it. Agnostic, yeah.
Right. Agnostic, and then there's the agnostic as well, right, or something like that.
No. I just probably was not how I speak. Probably threw you off.
Pronounce how other people say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So think about Gnostic and put an A in front of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Gnostic is one that studies self more so.
Knows knowledge, deals with facts,
stars.
And it's measurable. It's a scientific perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I see it right there now. My screen caught up.
Okay,
yeah. Agnostic.
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 Agnostic, yeah. Yeah.
I got it.
All right. So
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. So now this is the Gnostic perspective. Quote, from an infinite source, midst realms of light, an offspring from God, my soul took its flight to gain amidst matter with its trials and pain, the knowledge to carry it homeward again. So this back to the Elohim and the brother, I think Trey L or on here Jesse Beverly today. He brought up something, and it was forced me to do a demonstration talking about the purpose of the Elohim and how they were planets and how the planets are nothing but vessels that got information from, some may call him the Most High, some may call him the creator of the heavens and earth, Allah, Asar in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So yeah, the creators of the heaven and the universe left behind energy signals that had information in them. So the planets were a vessel to get the information to the humans, and then the humans are a vessel to give the information to the humans that have not ascended yet. And when I put it like that, the brother was like, "Oh, I got it." This is basically saying the same thing. From an infinite source, heavens are the creators, amidst the realms of light, an offspring from God. The offspring will be the planets. Heavens and earth created the planets. In the Milky Way, these 7 ruling planets give human beings their character, their chart, their impulses, character, etc. Right? My soul took flight. So now we're in our cardinal state. Since we're humans and we can see each other, we're having a carnal experience. Our goal is to evolve so we can tap in to the heavens and earth and the information. And once we tap in, all we're going to see is just we're going to start working together, have harmony, balance, be in tune with nature, know all it is to know how to grow, do construction, plumbing. We just know how to do stuff. We know how to build.
Let's create.
Yeah, you need to know information to know how to create, right? And you need to do that, and information. Hassan, you got something? I feel like you're finna say something.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Marv?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
Hassan.
so I had trouble with my, all right, cool. I had trouble with my audio with the timing. So with our spirits and our character being connected with certain planets, would you say that when we ascend, that we would probably, our spirit would go to that planet where our source came from or something like that?
It's not just one planet, like it's a well blend. When you get your chart done, you're gonna see exactly how you're configured, your constitution of man. But when we're no longer using this vessel, or now the essence just goes to wherever it goes. I don't think we have control over that. But one thing I do know is the reason we get deja vu, or no, what's it called? Is that deja vu? Um,
Yeah,
is
like you've been there before. Okay.
yeah, that's not by accident. We tapping into things that when we was in the myth form, but we was conscious though. We just wasn't in the physical form. We just tapping in and remembering, like, damn. And sometimes we'll see something that happened in this form, but we dreamed about it in the future, and now it's like, oh, it's here. And you was like, man, I remember I was thinking about this 8 years ago. This whole scenario is happening right now in front of my eye. Like, damn, this is crazy. You know what I mean? So, um, the real you is gonna do whatever it do. You might come in another body, but your consciousness is always here and it will be here. Your children, your offspring, you're gonna live through them. So it's kind of like,
Well,
a tree plants a seed. It's an apple tree. Now the seed is in the ground. The seed gonna ultimately become trees themselves later, right? So it's like, did the tree really die?
correct.
You know, um,
And like
hopefully,
I was thinking, do you agree that like we're the only beings on the earth that don't understand the concept of death? You understand what I'm saying? Like we mourn death, we do certain rituals and things during death, but like the animals and nature and everything else, they understand that death comes and they're okay with it, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
right? They in the present. They're more present than us now. We worried. We worried about stuff in the future and in the past. And that's a great example, man. Like when we observe animals, these are things that are in their natural state. Unless us humans come and interrupt their natural state and put them in the zoo and all that. But outside of stuff like that, animals gonna do what they naturally designed here to do, you know, and they ain't gonna deviate. We the only ones deviating. So that means what? We out of tune with nature. We're out of harmony.
Correct.
And when you're out of harmony, it's
Correct.
imbalance. When it's in balance, it's chaos. When it's in chaos, it's stress. You know what I mean? So we're trying to get back in harmony. Um, any other thoughts? If I continue with the read statements, good stuff. Good stuff, man. So the immutable laws of nature may be traced backward into remote areas of sun formation or carried forward beyond the pure view of the present into the equally dim vistas of the eternal future by those who can see and realize for themselves the plane of both cause and effect. To be able to do this, we must attain unto the soul state equilibrium or balance, where both realms unite, where there is neither cause nor effect, but where the two are one. It is from such a state that the teachings contained in this work were derived, and as such we derive them to the closely to be studied. The genesis of life must be viewed from 7 planes of its manifestation to be thoroughly understood. These planes, taken in the order of their celestial evolution, are as follows. So I'm gonna get into these 7 and then I'll transit into something else. So the 7 are celestial, spiritual, astral, mineral, vegetable, and human, animal and human. All right. From the 7th or human state, the life atoms again pass through the astral and spiritual to the celestial. The complete cycle of necessity being composed of 10 great cycles corresponding to the well-known Kabbalistical or Kabbalah Sephiroth. At present, we shall only speak of 1 and 4, so we're only going to go into the celestial and the mineral for right now. I mean, 1, 4, and 5, and animal and vegetable. So these 3 constituting the foundations from which the others arise. So let's break down the celestial state more in depth. So of this state, it is impossible to give more than a general outline containing, as it does, the mystery of those inconceivable laws, or laws you can't see, but they're still laws just because you can't see them, by the operation of which the ego becomes an acting entity. It must suffice to say that it is the state of celestial life wherein is located the purely embryonic center in the divine arc of progressive being. This is the point where the diffusive intelligence of the infinite spirit becomes differentiated and atomic. Yes, we repeat the word that divine ego of the human soul is absolutely atomic. So it's developed over time. It is a self-existing absolute atom of Jehovah God, a Christ child, which it is impossible to alter, transform, absorb, or annihilate. From the supreme moment of its differentiation, it is as internal and immortal as the infinite of which it forms a part. But though atomic, it is only so as purely spiritual conception, a point of radiant light, free from matter, and incapable of uniting itself with it except by means of reflection. The process of differentiation now claims our attention. This process is consummated with the celestial matrix of angelic parents. By angelic parents, we mean those divine entities who dwell within the various spheres of angelhood, back to archangels, back to the planets. You know what? This side note might be interesting. We do not use the term angel in the sense implied by ordinary lexicographers or people that write dictionaries who interpret the word as a spirit, a servant, or messenger, but we use it to mean the highest and most interior state of life, which it is possible for mortal mind to grasp, right? So once we're ready to receive, our mind will be ready to grasp it. It is infinitely above the so-called spiritual sphere. I like this messenger reference too. So the twin souls, male and female, or heavenly Osiris and Isis, or father and mother, form two halves, the masculine and feminine attributes of the divine ego. They have their alternate cycles of activity and repose. During the cycle of their fruitful activity, the two natures respond with intense vibrations to the divine anthem of creation, which creates an influx of the formless, motionless spirit into the celestial sensorium, until the whole sphere becomes radiant with the scintillations of spiritual harmony. Obeying creative impulse, these streams of spiritual force flow along the convergent poles from the various centers of the sphere, each force from the male being met with the balance by that of the female, the contact producing by the exact equilibrium or balance of the masculine and feminine natures, the living external sparks of immortal life. In other words, these angelic vibrations transform the formless intelligence, which has been indrawn into active eternal egos, as man on earth is the natural outcome of procreative powers of earthly parents. So the divine activities of the ego are the spiritual results in the one sense. But the creative attributes of angelic progenitors or ancestors in the celestial worlds. But we must not be misunderstood on this point. The ego is not created in the angelic state. It is only differentiated. The ego never had an actual genesis. It is coeval deity. The celestial harmony or vibrations merely endowed it with spiritual activity, aroused it from its unconscious state, and propelled it forward with the motion of eternal life. So man and woman come together, create something that's in the physical. It has its own ego, personality, right? But it's not by chance. But once again, you come out the womb, you're a snapshot of the heavens. But it goes from something that's not atomic to something that is atomic by the union of man and woman. Because you create something that has an atomic structure now. Now a body is building, right? The woman builds Solomon's temple with no hammer, no banging, nothing. No hammer, no nails. But the temple was being constructed in 3 trimesters. It takes 3 trimesters. These newly differentiated atoms remain with the parental soul sphere until the vibrations have ceased. They then become attracted by the reactive energy and are withdrawn from their celestial matrix and carried by spiritual currents to the embryonic state, or the embryo. Their next descent is to paradisical worlds of the cherubs, where the bisexual ego comes the Adam and Eve of scripture. So we're talking about, and I'm glad this book is going this direction, because that's back to, we're talking about last week and the week before, Genesis being the book of genetics, talking about the atom and the evolution of the atom. Atom, evolution. What's short for evolution? Eve. The evolution of the atom. It takes man and woman to create such a thing, right? But it's not like woman come from the man rib. That's why we read the timeline earlier. The remix of the Bible by Constantine and the crew, right? It's all tied in. It's all tied in. We need to know this as the high priest today, right? The Moors that know supreme knowledge today. That's the only way we can talk to our people. We need to be sharp on a lot of different things. A lot of different things. And that's the importance of us coming together as a temple of body politic, because everybody specializes in things naturally. We all have natural gifts that we can bring to the community to enhance the body of nobles. In the process of time, these pure twin souls unconsciously obeying the internal impulse of their involuntary temper,
Evolutionary.
internal impulse of their evolutionary temper,
Mhm.
become attracted towards matter. Up to this point, they are pure and innocent, knowing neither good nor evil. Therefore, the divine ego, which is incapable of descent into matter, projects the two souls outward as spiritual monads into the vortex of cosmic evolution, right? The monad becomes the nomad. And what's the nomad, right? All the ancient Moorish civilizations were known as nomadic people because the monad is the spark. Once the spark happens, evolution of the nomad comes out the womb. It's a human, it grows up, it participates in the affairs of man, part and parcel of government structure of your national peers. Just like the ants, you come to be a part of uplifting humanity. That's what a little side note. Um, hmm,
Right here. I was become trying to.
right.
Oh, two souls.
Uh, two souls outward as monads into the vortex of cosmic evolution, where they become separated and ultimately incarnated with the mineral round of the planet, which is the lowest point of the arc, the lowest part in the arc. So the lowest point of the arc, or grossest state, we can see. Now it's time to bounce back. Since in this experience is to evolve. In making this descent, each monad passes through every state in the soul world. When each of the four realms of the astral kingdoms, before it appears in the external mineral plane, in this state, they constitute the hidden fire of matter, latent force, atomic energy. So that what we just covered was the celestial state. Now let's get into the mineral state. Having arrived at the mineral state, we must now ascertain the origin of its motion, its life, since we know that within the mineral lies concealed the potencies of the immortal being. And that's back to the Circle 7 Quran. A seed is only potent that from which it comes, right? The seed nonetheless. What was that?
Mm-hmm.
In the chapter upon the evolution of matter and the laws of crystallization, we endeavored to show that force, all balanced, produce crystals. And in their production, motion comes to an end. Now, to help us in our search for physical life, let us again press into serve our six equal forces, our cubic atom. And let us imagine that one of its forces is not equal to its opposite, i.e., the two are not balanced. Say one is less in that it is the force coming from before. It is evident that the point will move forward in a straight line, and that the weaker the force coming from the front, the greater will be the velocity of this movement forward. Now, if this force coming from the front might might less than the opposite, its motion will infinitely slow. Now let us assume that the two of the six forces are less than their opposites. Say the one in the front and the one from the left. It is evident that we should have a motion of a curve. So now we're talking about what's that? Inertia. Something's gonna keep moving until it reaches a point that something slows it down, whether it be the rocks on the ground. Something's gonna slow down if something's deterring its path. It is evident that we should have motion in the curve, in so much as the others are the same as when we assume our point. It is plain that the motion in the curve will be in the same place of surface and will in time describe a circle. But let us assume also the other force is less than its opposite. Say that the one coming from above. What have we now? Our original point, so it's gonna get smashed, right? Our original point with three of these forces is less than their opposite. The result will be motion. not motion in a straight line, but in a curve, but not in a curve, in the same plane of space. And hence it could never describe a circle, but will form a spiral. This spiral is life. So what else spirals? Everything you could think of, it comes from a point of where it rock bottom ascended. That's why I gave the example of the phoenix, ascending, the kundalini, the snakes, you know, ascension. I think I'll stop right here with this book and then continue from where we left off with the mystery of the silent brotherhood, then we can close out. So we left off on chapter 5. We got something in the chat. Let's see.
Open it.
He said it's intense. Yeah, it's intense. So we're dealing with Yahshua, his first year of divine ministry. The Jewish Paschal feast came. So before let's read the definition, because some of these words I'm not going to assume people just know. So what is Paschal? What is Paschal? Okay. So Paschal mystery is central to Catholic faith and theology relating to a history of salvation. It also is dealing with the resurrection, or what they call the Passover in the Bible. It's dealing with Easter, the Passover. So most people that are prescribed to being Jews, they will take part, or they, in the Passover from the Jewish perspective. As we can see, this bleeds into different religions that partake in this in a different way. So the Christians, the perspective is it was lamb's blood over the door to protect everybody from the angel of death. Everybody was protected except the firstborn children of the Pharaoh. That's how they're going to promote that. From a Gnostic perspective, it's more internal. It's more about ascension, death and rebirth. We also know it's dealing with spring equinox, as far as when crops in the harvest, take place. And that gives rise to multiple holidays, today in a lot of different religions as well. I wanted to bring that up because I feel like that word is very not regular. So the Jewish Paschal feast time came, and Yahshua left his mother in Capernaum and journeyed to Jerusalem. And he abode with a Sadducee, whose name was Jude. And when he reached the temple court, the multitudes were there to see the prophet, whom the people thought had come to break the yoke of Rome. So look, they're ready for Yahshua to break the yoke of Rome and restore the kingdom of the Jews and the rules of David's throne. And when the people saw him come, they said, "All hail." But Yahshua answered not. He saw the money changers in the house of Allah, and he was grieved. The courts had been converted into marts of trade, and men were selling lambs and doves for the priests. And Yahshua called the priests and said, "Behold, For paltry gain, you have sold out the. Am I back? Am I back?
Yeah, you back. Let me see. Yeah, it's back.
It's back. Okay.
Yeah.
This house ordained for prayer is now a den for thieves, a den of thieves. Can good and evil dwell together in the court of Allah? I tell you, no. And then he drove them out and overturned the boards. He opened up the cages of captive birds. So Yahshua flipping over tables. And I see like to say, what y'all got going on there right up in here, man. And cut the cords that bound the lambs and set them free. The priests and scribes rushed out and would have done him harm, but the common people drove them back and stood in his defense. So the common people was with, with Yahshua. Yahshua had the back of the people, man. The backing of the people. And then the ruler said, who's this Yahshua you can call divine? The people said, he is the one of the prophets wrote concerning who would come and bring the world the love of Allah made known to men of earth, who will deliver Israel. The ruler said to Yahshua, if you be the one to come, then show us a sign. Who gave you the right to drive these merchants out? And Yahshua said, there is no loyal Jew who would give his life to save this temple from disgrace. In this, I acted simply as a loyal Jew, and you yourselves will bear me witness to the truth. The sign of my messiahship will follow me in word and deed. And you may tear the temple down, and in 3 days it will be built again. Now Yahshua meant that they might take his life, tear down his body temple of the holy breath, and he will rise again. You men of Israel, hear, this man is more than man. Take heed to what you do. I have myself heard Yahshua speak, and all the winds were still. And you will see his star rise, and it will grow until it is the full orbed sun of love. And Yahshua said, prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. But you can never see the king while you press sin to your hearts. This king is Allah. The pure in heart alone can see the face of Allah and live. So once again, these holy books are principle-based chapters. And, back to word and deed, back to your intentions coming out of love, which will give you discernment in your dealings. And everybody's a work in progress, but the goal is to get to a perfected state. And that's another thing why it's important to have communities, because we'll assist our brothers and sisters that may fall short on different levels. Even just a conversation, how you doing, man? Tapping in with the community, even outside of platforms like this, one-on-one, just tapping in with everybody that's part of the body, because this is a brotherhood, a sisterhood. After all, we're reading, what book we reading? The Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood. You know what I mean? So, and to someone, once again, I got to bring up Universal Declaration on Human Rights. It's key. First article, to be considered human, we work together in a spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood, of course. So that was my demonstration for today. Any thoughts, statements? Before we close out in prayer, after we close out, we're going to reiterate as far as all the physical members. We have a new date. We found a location. It's in Lakewood. And we're going to go over that in more detail after I close out in prayer. And I guess after I close out, let's just chop it up, see how everybody feeling, etc. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Amen. And that adjourns our meeting officially. So yeah, how everybody feeling? How everybody feeling in here? How everybody